One wanted to go over the customer journey in this video to kind of go over one of the key concepts of my web analytics course. First, we're going to look at discovery. This is an example of something that I've done and my own discovery in terms of customer journey and buying something or not buying something, because the conclusion doesn't have to end in a conversion. First, we have discovery, and this is where a user identifies a need or experiences a pain point with something and starts thinking what the solution might be. The idea here is that there's a problem and we need to find a solution. So that's the discovery phase. When I love to cook, so I started looking at Chef Steps. Chef Steps makes these amazing videos online about cooking things, and they use a lot of science, so it kind of appealed to the geeky nerd part of me, and I love watching their videos, right? And in terms of wanting to be a better cook, that might be my pain point. I'm pretty good, but I want to always up my game. And one of the things that I think about with that is something called sous vide cooking, and that's like putting it in a bath of water at a certain temperature, like chicken breast, let's say, and cooking it for a certain amount of time at a specific temperature, and they turn out great, right? So typically these tools have been really expensive, and Chef Steps has a connection with a sous vide machine. So the discovery is partially from the content marketing they did here, where this is a screenshot of their YouTube channel. Definition is where the need is refined and translated into a set of requirements and features that you might want. And here we might prioritize our requirements as like, oh, well, this is something I have to have, or this feature is a nice to have. Maybe I can live without it if it costs a little less. We have this internal dialogue in much of these phases as to whether or not we're going to buy something and why we're going to buy something and what features we need and what we don't need. And it kind of goes on and on. And this phase isn't a specific amount of time that you're in it, right? It could go on for months, frankly, with definition and learning before you actually buy anything. I think most of us, when we're facing kind of a higher purchase, higher end purchase, or a car, for instance, or something that's a little more expensive, we might spend a lot of time in these phases here, the next couple. So with definition, I started learning more about sous vide cooking from the product that Chef Steps has, the Joule. And I started looking at the website, and that was a spot where I could kind of gain some definition as to, do I want to buy a Joule or do I want to buy something else? How does this work anyway? And they provided this great content about like how to cook sous vide and what kind of ways in which the science works and how people are using it. So that would be the definition phase. And other options might look like this, where they show the clamp that you can have that'll hold the jewel on the pot where the water is that you're cooking something. And even the fact that you can talk to Alexa, which I have in my kitchen, in order to control it would be something that I might be interested in, right? So they're looking for ways here in this phase of the journey, because we want to market to each phase of the journey. They're looking for ways in which they might pique my interest, right? So with the learning phase, you're pretty much decided that you're going to buy a sous vide at that point, right? And I'm going to research and evaluate my options in the learning phase, right? So the definition phase might be very quick. It might take a while, but in the learning phase, there's a distinction here between maybe I'll buy a sous vide. I'm not sure. Is it really right for me? To yeah, I'm going to get one. I just don't know which, right? So remember that that's kind of the definition or the differences between these phases. So we might use a lot of different information here. We could be using reviews. We could be using more research and looking at other websites and looking at videos on YouTube and looking at their social media, for instance, right? So here, I had signed up for their email. They got a conversion for me, right? I signed up for their email newsletter, and I started getting these great emails with some good marketing content on how people are using the Joule and what things they might be cooking. And they were interesting and fascinating to me, and I got them over time. And that was part of my learning phase, as to like, do I want to buy this machine or something else? Another part would be their YouTube channel, where even they went into making coffee, and it didn't have to be about sous vide. It's about gaining trust with me, right? So if I have a mocha pot, which I do, and I watch this video and I learn how to make a better cup of coffee with my mocha pot, I trust Chef Steps a little more, right? But they also have this sous vide cooking guide here, and their videos are really good for this kind of thing. So it's another way in which they can support the learning phase of a customer journey. Finally, there's conclusion, where it may or may not actually result in a direct purchase, like I said earlier, right? A recommendation or a continuation of the decision-making process is usually what happens in this time period, right? So the conclusion could take a long time. I might be sure I want a jewel by the end of the learning phase, but not actually buy it for 3 months because I'm saving money, right? When I recently bought my new VW, I knew what I wanted and I had to wait a couple months because I needed to make sure I had a good down payment, right? So that can take a while sometimes. And I might end up deciding, oh, I don't want the VW, actually, I want the new Mustang electric, right? The new Ford. So those kind of things can happen too. And maybe the frustrating thing for a marketer could be that Chef Steps could be giving you all the information and the definition and the learning and contributing to you actually buying a sous vide, but it may not be theirs. 10 to 1, it will be theirs because you gain trust, but it does happen now and then. And that's how the cookie crumbles on that thing. So this is a general overview of the customer journey. We're going to look at look at this a lot this quarter. You're going to be creating your own customer journeys and logging them as part of your assignments. And that's your first look at a customer journey. Thank you.